Myself, Jack Gorst, and pit lane reporter Simon Crafar here at the Sepang International Circuit for the first official day of testing this year, and it certainly is going to be a very big one indeed for some of the manufacturers and maybe not so for some of the others, but we'll dive into that as we go throughout this live. Well, Simon, good to see you back. Hope you've had a nice winter, a bit more of a relaxed one than usual.
It's good to be back. It really is. It has been brutally hot this morning, you know, sun out, and the weather forecast wasn't good, so we feel lucky that it's that they've got. Everyone feels lucky that they've got dry track time, and I was happy to see some cloud cover to stop sweating, but it's brought some rain. You probably can't see some fine misty rain falling on us right now, which has just left a couple of bikes. In the last 5 minutes started raining, so we're not sure exactly what's going to happen from here, but lots of track action this morning we've seen.
Yeah, certainly has been. While we have a little chat, we may as well go for a little walk as well. There has been a lot of track action already, but really on the first day of testing, it's more just about the riders getting back into it, making sure they shake off the cobwebs, and, well, rather than testing parts, it's just about testing themselves.
Yeah, to paint the picture for you, what's been happening is all of the manufacturers have a bike in there from last year to use to get their rider up to speed, you know, and also track condition good, because it rained yesterday. Piero Taramasso was saying rider comment in general was green track,
right,
not a lot of grip, front moving, not much side grip, edge grip, and moving on the exit. So they needed to get some laps in. They used the 22 bikes to get all the riders up to speed, because they haven't ridden since Valencia on a MotoGP bike anyway.
Yeah.
And so that's what, before jumping on 23 machinery, or at least testing new stuff. And we've seen some pretty interesting stuff. I think we should start with Honda, because that is...
Well, let's start with Honda then. We said that this was going to be an important test, more so for some than others, and Honda, you have to say, are at the peak of that list as to who it's important for. Lots of new things, Simon. I know you've spotted a lot, so I'll let you ramble on about what you've seen.
Well, just looking in from the Honda garage, you saw what I was saying, the 22 machine that Mark did most of his races towards the end of the season on. You saw that sitting there, still in Repsol colours, but not one or two machines like in other factory garage, but three. And two of them you can see are kind of evolutions of that 22 bike with different things on it, different fairings, swing arms, whatever. Well, not swing arms, actually, chassis, aero, fairings, seats, exhaust. But one of the bikes, I would guess, is HRC's big roll the dice as well.
Yeah.
And it's totally everything. It's got an aluminium swing arm. Aluminium, but it looks like an HRC one, not a Calyx one.
It does.
And everything on that bike is different, isn't it? I think based on the same engine, but everything visible is different.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's got a different chassis, or at least the 2023 chassis that we're starting to see and know now. Different aero that's actually the same aero by the looks of it as what Mark finished the 2021 season with. And then even the ground effects side fairings, which for Honda, I don't think we've seen them since the Misano test last year when they very first debuted them. So it's certainly a bit of a gamble, that bike, at least it seems to be.
Yeah, and it basically, to me, it's like the big effort you expect from such a big company as HRC for 23, you know. Chase some directions and then roll the dice with another one to try and, you know, and it looks like a huge effort, good on them. Then probably the next biggest one, change-wise, I mean, it's the Yamaha and the Aprilia, definitely, between those.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be surprised, because the last 2 years with Aprilia, we've turned up here and the bike's been completely different, even though the bike has been good the year before there. And this year, when you go into the Aprilia garage, it's again different chassis, not by a long way, a little bit narrower where the foot pegs are.
Yeah.
They said it helped change the direction. But the fairing's different. You'll see these little ducts at the top of each side of the screen. The shape, the wing is smaller. Then you, as you look around, they've worked over the whole bike again, you know.
Yeah.
They said engine-wise, it will come at Portimao, but it's already been tested, proven. They're just waiting on parts. They're happy with it, but it's not here, the latest version. But they've touched everywhere again. So aero, shape of the bike, the chassis, the swing arm, and engine. So really impressive work from them.
Yeah, another evolution from Aprilia then. And actually, while we're chatting about Aprilia, we're just outside the little kind of hospitality unit for RNF MotoGP, and I can see Razlan Razali, of course, team owner and boss. So we'll see if we can grab a quick word of Razlan. How are you, Razlan?
Good.
Good to see you.
Slight rain.
Yeah, certainly a little bit wet. Now, of course, big change for you this year, because another rebranding of the team and going to Aprilia. How are things going so far?
Oh man, I can't describe the words. For us to get to where we are right now, it's a huge effort by everybody, because this is our second year as a team on my own. And already in the second year, we're doing a lot of things. We're changing the bikes, we're changing our sponsors, shareholders, riders, you name it. You know, it's everything. You know, and to get to where we are now is just amazing already.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like a lot of work just listing it off there, and rather you than me. Anyway, in terms of your two riders, of course, Miguel Oliveira, a lot of hype around him coming into the season, but also Raul Fernandez, a young sophomore now in MotoGP. What's your expectations in 2023 for them?
Well, look, we are desperate for results. You know, from 2019, you know, we had a good season. 2020, vice champion, and then from there on, we went downhill. So with this selection of our riders, with Miguel and Raul, of course, we expect immediate results, but not to put pressure on them. It's going to be step by step. You know, we learned from our experience in the last 2 years. But yeah, we need good results. What would that mean? I mean, as long as we are competitive, top 10, 1 or 2 podiums, we're happy. So that's the plan.
Well, it does seem like a lot of people think that you can probably achieve that with those two riders. And you, Simon?
For the listeners, I want to put you on the spot, Razlan, and for me, because I'm curious. Looking in all the garages, I can see Aleix and his teammate Maverick have one of the 22 machines and one of what looks to me like a 23 machine. And when I look at your garage, it looks like 22 machines. Can you tell me if that is correct, and will those new parts filter through to your riders, Miguel and Raul?
Yes, that's correct. The base for us is the last spec of a 22 bike from Valencia. That's very clear. And that's an advantage to us because we have data on the bikes. We know we have everything, and that will help the riders to some extent. But Aprilia is also committed that if our riders do well, they will give them maximum support, whether that's upgrades or whatever, that will come. Okay, so that's the plan.
Okay. Hey, one other question. We felt lucky this morning because it didn't rain like the forecast, but it is raining now. Any idea what's going to happen? You're a local.
Well,
tell us.
Welcome to Malaysia. Until now, I still couldn't figure out the weather. You know, so but if it's like this, it will be a short period of time. Everybody's having a lunch break now, so I think by this afternoon it should be dry. Okay. I hope.
Thank you and good luck.
Most pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Razlan. Thank you.
See you soon, buddy.
So interesting there then, as Razlan pointing out, that if those riders do well, of course, Raul Fernandez and Miguel Oliveira, that they will receive upgrades from Aprilia, which is really nice to see. Of course, Aprilia, one of the smaller factories in MotoGP, but still committed to giving those upgrades when needed.
I had a chat with Paolo Bonora, who is the engineer at Aprilia that I love listening to. He looked pale. And this morning when I first saw him, I told him, you look pale. And he goes, I've spent the whole winter in my office pushing, you know. And he said because they're supplying so many machines on the grid now and trying to develop the bike they have, it's been a massive winter for them. So, yeah, good luck to them.
Well, hopefully they can provide that and take another step, as we say, evolution of the bike and all that. Now, quickly, before we have to wrap this up, let's have a brief chat about Yamaha, because there's another team, manufacturer even, well, team now, because there is just 2 of them, actually, that is a massively important test for, and the biggest thing is that engine.
Yes, I tried to do some digging because I knew you'd want to know what happened to Valencia. And the story I got told, I say story because... it could be true and couldn't be.
Yeah.
But what I believe happened, and what I got told by the team that happened, is that engine is better. And at the Valencia test, they had a better power curve. So it was harder because it's such a linear power curve, which you want. So to give you an idea, if the power curve hits at any point, it feels faster. Mm-hmm. But from my experience, if the power curve is nice and smooth, it's hard to feel if the bike's fast or not, you know. But you go fast, which is what the Ducati was like when I had a ride on it.
Yeah.
Beautiful linear power, didn't feel fast, but it obviously is. So they tested that engine at Valencia, but the problem was they didn't test it with the same setup, and they didn't, as in the race at Valencia, and they didn't test it with back-to-back with the race bike. So the riders couldn't feel any difference. They said the bike was better, but in conjunction with other parts, which I take as aero maybe, because with big aero, that is hard to push and slows the machine down.
Exactly.
So they said once they'd gone back and analysed everything, that the Yamaha is faster, and they've shown it here already.
Yeah.
And I've got to say, before we finished on Yamaha, is they have made a massive effort. I haven't seen the Yamaha change as much as it is here from last year. In how long? Probably since 2016.
Yeah.
I mean, there's new chassis, swing arm, fairing, aero. They've made a massive push, and been a busy winter for Yamaha as well.
Yeah, they definitely have. It has been a very busy one. And we're actually just going to go down into pit lane, I do believe. But yeah, massively busy winter for Yamaha, and it does seem that they've gained that horsepower that they were needing, and also hopefully they can kind of make some fine adjustments to that chassis to help Franco Morbidelli as well, because that's another man that needs a bit of confidence for 2023. Now, let's talk about KTM and GasGas, because there's a bit of a different sounding engine there, and it seems as though KTM are really one to watch in 2023. It definitely sounds like there's big improvements being made.
So what I've seen so far in the boxes is the factory team, I mean Red Bull KTM, not the GasGas, they have, so it's Jack and Brad, with their machines, they are all those new chassis that we first saw at Valencia.
Yeah.
And those new chassis are on both machines, okay? Then you look at the GasGas side, and there is a new chassis for pole against one of their 22 base machines.
Yeah.
So he's got, but then on Fernandez's side, who's a rookie, they've actually left him with 222s at the moment.
Yes.
To get him up to speed. That's what I've seen. I haven't seen a lot of aero yet. They said they were going to try some this afternoon, because I was asking. But you said about the engine, and I don't think I'm going to upset KTM and point this out, because it's pretty obvious, because the thing sounds so different.
Yeah.
You know, I first heard it when I was idling and recorded it because it sounds more V-twin like, you know.
Yeah.
And you can hear the difference, especially at the low RPM warming up. It's more like a V-twin sound. And then I thought, am I hearing things? And then when I heard it going down the pit lane, pit straight here, down the front straight, and Jack Miller was out at the same time, so you could back-to-back the sounds, and Jack's is screaming wow down here, and the other one's more flat sounds. So KTM are doing something different engine-wise.
Well, very promising for KTM, of course, as you mentioned there. Jack Miller coming in as well, brings a wealth of experience from Ducati. Very valuable, because it's kind of that thing where obviously he's hopping on a very different bike with a steel chassis and all this sort of stuff, but he will know what it is like compared to the level of Ducati. So he'll be able to say, yes, this part is more like Ducati, or, you know, it's more competitive.
Yeah, point out weaknesses to work on, because it's very hard to find where you're weak and what, you know, for example, it's common that a rider will complain about one area where they're not actually slow. You know, they think they are, but they're not. It's somewhere else. So Jack will be able to quickly say, look, guys, we are weak here, and that's where to focus on. I think that's one of the values of Jack.
And lastly, speaking of the world champions, Ducati, of course, swept it last year, did the Triple Crown. Not so much we've seen so far, is there? We know that there's new aero and some ground effect side fairings, but so far it's definitely been a case of slowly and gently, because they don't want to make the same mistake last year as where they kind of ended up with an engine spec they weren't 100% happy with. Yeah,
so I spoke to the team manager, Tardozzi, this morning, and said, what's the aim for today? And he said, look, we're going to start on the 22 bikes, which we could see. There was 22 machines out in their box, one per rider.
Yeah.
So they did exactly what all the other manufacturers are doing, is that set them out on the 22 bike, get them up to speed, you know, get track condition right, then try them on the 23 bike. And the 23 bike is, you know, when they got the same fairings on, which is how they started, they're very difficult to tell the difference, you know. The only way I could tell the difference is, keep an eye out, is the swing arm around where the axle goes through for the rear wheel.
Slightly different.
Different shape. They've got the swing arm from Pramac, that Pramac developed last year.
Yes.
That's how to spot the 23 bike, because it's got this round rather than square insert in the carbon fibre swing arm. That's how difficult it is to tell the difference with the Ducati. But they've been out with different aero. You've seen that.
Yes.
Different belly pans, different air intake, different fairing shape, similar to what we saw Pecco test at Valencia. So the thing is, I think the manufacturers that struggled the most at the end of last year are the ones with the biggest changes here. And Ducati's the opposite end of the scale.
Yeah.
So lots of really small changes. And Ducati also traditionally save their best for last, meaning right at the end of testing, meaning Portimao, before they show their latest kit, you know, that Pirro would have already developed.
Yep.
And they don't want anyone copying too soon. So we'll see some new stuff from Ducati for sure.
Yeah, there will definitely be one last trick up Gigi Dall'Igna's sleeve, that is for sure. Now that we've wrapped up each one of the manufacturers, we'll be able to wrap this up as well. Of course, you can join more of the coverage from the next couple of days of the Sepang test, starting tonight at 5:30 local time. We'll have the After the Flag show, which will be hosted by Lewis Sotheby and Neil Morrison. Simon Crafar will also be doing a little bit too, and possibly I might interrupt as well at some point.
And we'll be able to update and let you know what happened this afternoon as well then.
Exactly. And what it does, one positive actually, is that while we've been doing this live, the rain that was started to fall on us as we started seems to have stopped. So hopefully, fingers crossed, this afternoon will stay fully dry. So 2.5 more days of testing here to come at Sepang, the very first official test of the year. There's going to be plenty of action, plenty of new parts to spot. Make sure you stay tuned to MotoGP.com as we bring you the rest of all the coverage. We'll see you then. Bye for now.